Hey everyone, how are you all doing today? So this is one heck of a loaded and twisted video, so I hope you're ready. So put your nerd hats on and let's get to it. In today's video, and fan fiction sorta, we're gonna take the scenario of what would have happened if Anakin fought Mace Windu. Now, we'll have to address a couple things in the scenario being discussed, as it really depends on what moment Mace fought Anakin, so I'm gonna have to mention that now. Now, in my typical fanfiction fashion, we usually go into the full story on Star Wars and how it would impact the galaxy for generations to come, going through prequels, originals, and even into the sequels sometimes with a completely different story than what we got. I've done videos years ago regarding Anakin fighting Mace here or there in some different scenarios, and someone eventually wins, then continuing on with the story. However, I never really went into detail as to how they would fight each other given their force level, force rank, and their lightsaber fighting styles. I think that would be something fun to go over in today's video. So, to start it all off, let's begin at the setting in Revenge of the Sith, where Mace goes to arrest the Senate with his crew of Jedi Masters, Saesee Tiin, Agen Kolar, and Kit Fisto. Now, did you know in the original script, Anakin was supposed to already be there with Palpatine, and he was going to give him his lightsaber to fight? Which is why in a lot of the fight scenes, we see it switch back and forth between Anakin's and Palpatine's lightsaber. That's because they actually shot the footage of the fight with Anakin's, then did some reshoots or whatever with stunt doubles in certain scenes and whatnot, especially when Windu kicks the saber hilt out of the window. Now, let's say in either this original script instance or in the canon version of the film, we got Anakin Skywalker fighting Mace Windu at some point. Anakin either steps in right before Mace kills Palpatine and just blocks his lightsaber instead of cutting his hand off. The two would eventually engage in a heated duel, and so on and so forth. Now, Mace was the only Jedi to handle Palpatine besides Yoda. He got the upper hand on him, which of course is massively debatable. I know George Lucas says that Mace won, so of course that's that. But I did get to ask Ian McDiarmid if he thinks Palpatine lost on purpose, and of course he said yes, which I wholeheartedly believe. As much as George is the man, what helps me sleep at night is that Palpatine threw that fight, and I guess it helps Ian sleep too. So I really want to go with that, but of course George's word is godsend. Anyways, Mace uses the 7th form. This was a very acrobatic form. He created this variant of it and he called it Vaapad, which many of you know. Now, Vaapad in Mace's terms can be described like this from the book Shatterpoint. On Serapin, a Vaapad was a notoriously dangerous predator, powerful and rapacious. It attacked with its blindingly fast tentacles. Most had at least 7. It was not uncommon for them to have as many as 12. The largest ever killed had 21. The thing about a Vaapad was that you never knew how many tentacles it had until it was dead. They moved too fast to count, almost too fast to see. So did Mace's. So his form was fueled by the darkness within himself and his enemy, and this is kind of where the specialty lies within his form. He harnessed the power of the darkness around and within himself to funnel it back into his fighting style, and he says this to Obi-Wan, that he used the darkness within him to create Vaapad, and it allows him to channel that energy. It was heavily effective against dark side users specifically. So if he's using Vaapad against a light side user, it's just kind of like the 7th lightsaber fighting style. Now, Anakin uses the 5th. Anakin's form is all about being on the offense. He's got powerful attacks, and when fueled by his hatred, like he did against Dooku, his speed, his power, and overall abilities just increase tenfold. Not to mention his extreme powers in the Force. The reason Mace beat Palpatine, which I'll explain in another video with newfound information that I haven't spoken about yet, is because of Vaapad, partially. Now, if Anakin were to fight him, he would lose if he were using the dark side. Mace was extremely powerful. He was Yoda's right-hand man, and easily one of the most, if not the most powerful Jedi in the galaxy. Mace would overpower him by channeling Anakin's darkness and call upon the dark side back into Vaapad and use it against Skywalker. Now, here's the thing. Anakin wouldn't be using the dark side unless it was after the events of Order 66 at the Jedi Temple, and Mustafar. Remember when his eyes turned yellowy gold-orange? Sidious told him if he does what needs to be done, then, and only then, will he have the power of the dark side to save the one he loves. Through those acts of pure evil, he would be strong enough. So, if we're talking about Anakin up until the moment he entered the Jedi Temple, then Anakin would have a much higher chance at beating Mace while still in his more so light side form. Anger and the dark side are completely different things in my opinion. Anger is just an emotion, but it's through one's extended use of it, fighting with anger, thinking with anger, and killing with anger, that leads one's path to the dark side. Otherwise, if you just get angry and fight, it's not going to make you a dark side user right away. It's what you do with that emotion going forwards. Otherwise, anger can give focus, like Palpatine said. And I still wonder if Obi-Wan used anger and fear to focus himself to kill Darth Maul. That one's kind of a mystery for me, a little bit. If Anakin were to fight with his Form 5 against Mace's insanely powerful Form 7 Vaapad, almost overpowered if you might think of it, then I think Anakin would have a better chance. To say he would win, just really depends on what's at stake. Let's say Mace kind of went crazy and he held Padme as hostage, and he was behind everything. It really depends what's motivating him, right? Everyone talks about Anakin having these weaknesses and these crutches because he's got, Padme or his mother dying and things like that, which can be used as collateral, but at the end of the day, they really fuel his emotions, and Anakin is very emotionally driven. So here's the thing, Anakin was the chosen one. If he had just a few months to train in the dark side, then I believe he would give Mace a run for his money. Vaapad or not, it doesn't matter. The chosen one at full power, or at least near it, would pretty much destroy anyone. Now, Vader, with all of his limitations against Mace, is a completely different story, and that one is gonna have to wait until Vader Episode 2. Now here's another point for Anakin. He was Obi-Wan's student. He was his Padawan. Obi-Wan was the master of Sorsu, and Mace Windu gave Obi-Wan a good pep talk saying that you are the master of the defense fighting style, Sorsu. And that's one of the reasons why he voted to send Obi-Wan to Utapau to defeat Grievous, because he was capable of doing so. This is also how he ended up stopping Anakin, because Anakin was so offensive and Obi-Wan was very defensive. He just waited until Anakin made a mistake, which he did. So I feel like some of Obi-Wan's training and lightsaber fighting style would at least rub off on Anakin a little bit for him to know a lot of defense tactics, which of course would play a big role in this game. So at the end of the day, Anakin, full power in the dark side, the chosen one would defeat Mace Windu. Anakin pre-Revenge of the Sith would lose. Anakin during Revenge of the Sith, leaning more so towards the dark side a little bit, would have a much tougher time to defeat Mace, but he would still fare pretty well. That being said, Mace is pretty much the most powerful Jedi that ever existed during the time of the prequels, so I would have to say Mace would win 9 times out of 10, unless Anakin really had the advantage somewhere and he had some sort of leverage on Mace. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please leave a like on it if you did. Let me know who you think would win down below, Anakin or Mace, and what time periods. Have an awesome rest of your day, and of course, as always, remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Now, fulfill